Hello, Tallulah Skya friends. Today we have a very, very good book by the name of The Soccer Fence, a story of friendship, hope, and apartheid in South Africa, by Phil Bildner, illustrated by Jesse Joshua Watson. As a boy, Hector loved playing soccer in his small Johannesburg township. He dreamed of playing on a real pitch with the boys from another part of the city, but apartheid made that impossible. Then, in 1990, Nelson Mandela was released from prison, and apartheid began to crumble. The march toward freedom in South Africa was a slow one, but when the beloved Bafana Bafana national soccer team won the African Cup of Nations, Hector realized that dreams once impossible could now come true. This poignant story of friendship artfully depicts a brief but critical moment in South Africa's history and the unique role that sports can play in bringing people together.
The Soccer Fence. I kicked the egg-shaped ball towards the goal. "He shoots," I shouted. The ball soared past my sister's fingertips just inside the leaning stack of empty cartons. Goal! With my fist in the air, I sprinted up the field along the wire fence, the outer bounds that separated our Johannesburg township from the rest of the world. Twice a month, my sister and me rode the Putco bus with Mama. She took us to a different part of Johannesburg where she worked. "Stay out of trouble," Mama always warned as she led us to the yard. My sister usually spent all day in the garden, trimming and raking and planting and smiling. I spent all day with my face pressed to the fence, my eyes glued to the boys chasing after the black and white leather ball. "Hey!" I called, "Hey!" But not a single boy ever looked my way as they raced up and back along the green carpet. One day, I whispered, "I'm going to play on a field just like that. One day real soon." Today, we celebrate liberty. Papa raised his hands to the heavens. Nelson Mandela had been freed from prison. Apartheid had finally crumbled. We paraded to FNB Stadium with the other families from our township. High in the packed upper deck, we waved flags, danced in the aisles, and listened to our hero. "We are going forward," Nelson Mandela declared. The march towards freedom and justice is irreversible. But the march was slow. The next time I went to work with Mama, I peeked over the fence. "Can I play?" I called. Not a single boy looked my way. Then, one time, a couple of years later, while I was helping my sister in the garden, their ball sailed over the fence. "I'll get it," I shouted. I chased it down and bicycle kicked it high into the air and back over the fence, right to the blond boy standing by midfield. He trapped my pass with his foot and booted the ball onto the field. Then he turned away and rejoined his game. Today we celebrate liberty. Papa raised his hands to the heavens. For the first time ever, people of all races could vote in South Africa. We stood for hours and hours in a snaking line at the polling station. When Papa finally cast his ballot, he hugged me tighter than he ever had. A few days later, the news reached our township. Nelson Mandela was now President Mandela, President of all South Africa. Our President Mandela loved sports, and when South Africa was chosen to host the 1996 African Cup of Nations, he helped rally the whole country around our team. On the rocky field in my township and on the grassy field in Johannesburg, we rooted for our team, Bafana Bafana, the boys. I pretended to be John Shoes Mushu, the black midfielder. Shoes, I cheered when I booted the ball into the goal. On his field, the blond boy pretended to be Mark Fish, the white defender. Fish, he cheered when he bicycle kicked the ball between the posts. In the opening match of the Cup of Nations, we watched Bafana Bafana thump Cameroon 3-0. Then, in the next round, we faced Algeria. Neither team could find the net in the driving rain, but midway through the second half, Mark Fish stormed past a defender and blasted a strike. Fish! We danced around the tiny television in town. Fish! Algeria fought back and tied the match, but with just 5 minutes remaining, Shoes Mushu rocketed a shot. Shoes! We poured into the street. Shoes! Bafana Bafana won again. In the semifinals, neither Papa nor Mama believed Bafana Bafana had much of a shot against Ghana, the only undefeated team left in the tournament. You can't say we don't have a chance, my sister said. Things are different now. It's a new day in South Africa. I agreed, repeating the words I'd heard at school and in church and on the bus and everywhere since the end of Apartheid. We can dream now. If Bafana Bafana wins, we must go to the finals. If Bafana Bafana finds a way to the finals, Papa said, we'll find a way to the finals. Bafana Bafana found a way. Papa scraped together enough money for tickets, emptying change from the jars tucked behind the cupboard. When Papa finally purchased our tickets at the newsstand, I hugged him tighter than I ever had. Yabo, Bafana, Bafana, we cheered. High in the packed upper deck of FNB Stadium, we chanted cheers and sang Shushuluza as Bafana Bafana took the pitch for the final showdown against Tunisia. Standing on my seat, I spotted the blond boy standing on his seat in the next section. He saw me and raised his fist. I raised my fist back. The tense match remained a scoreless duel well into the second half. 50 minutes, 60 minutes, 70 minutes. Suddenly, Mark Williams slipped past two defenders and booted the ball towards Tunisia's net. Goal! Then, before we could sit back down, Bafana Bafana's amazing attacker broke free again and rocketed another ball towards Tunisia's side of the field. Goal! The final whistle blew. Bafana Bafana had won the African Cup of Nations. Down on the pitch, the Bafana Bafana players paraded around waving flags and blowing kisses. The blonde boy and I led the snaking line of frenzied fans in and out of the aisles and up and down the steps as we celebrated the first championship soccer trophy we'd ever won. The next time I left the township, I saw the boy playing on the field. "My name is Chris," the blond boy said, trotting to the fence when he saw me. "Do you want to play?" "Oh, yes," I replied. "I'm Hector." He lifted the latch on the gate. "When we play," he said, "I like to be Mark Fish." "I like to be Shoes Mushu," I said. "That means we're teammates." He opened the gate. I stepped through the soccer fence.
A little bit of history. When the South African national soccer team defeated Tunisia in the African Cup of Nations in 1996, they did much more than win a championship. They helped unite a divided country. For centuries in South Africa, blacks were denied basic human rights, and in 1948, when the National Party took power, apartheid, the Africans' word for separation of apartness, became the official policy. Anyone who tried to resist apartheid was dealt with harshly. Anti-apartheid organizations like the African National Congress were banned, and many of their leaders, like Nelson Mandela, were sent to prison for life. The global community objected to the South African government's racist policies. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, individuals, companies, and nations around the world boycotted South Africa. The international effort had a crippling effect on the South African economy and weakened the hardline government. At long last, apartheid began to crumble, and in 1990, President F.W. de Klerk announced the end of the policy. After 27 long years in prison, Nelson Mandela was finally freed. Still, the severely wounded country remained deeply divided, but sports played a major role in repairing the rift and healing the hurt. Nelson Mandela loved sports. He understood they had the power to inspire and unite. They could play a pivotal role in bringing the country he loved closer together. So, a multiracial South African Football Association was formed, and a fresh national soccer team was born. On July 7, 1992, the first team to represent all South Africans played a match, and in a stunning upset, they defeated Cameroon. In an instant, a nation's spirits were lifted. 4 years later, South Africa hosted the African Cup of Nations, and just as President Mandela had dreamed, children like the ones in the soccer fence and an entire country came together and rallied around a team. For generations, apartheid crushed the hopes and spirits of black South Africans, but when Bafana Bafana went on their historic and improbable run, those 30 million blacks and a reborn nation found a reason to believe. Apartheid timeline, a brief history, 1910 to 2010. Okay, friends, now we're going to share the apartheid timeline, which is included in this book. It's a brief history about apartheid from 1910 to 2010 in South Africa. Please take a moment and read. Okay, friends, well, we're hoping the soccer fence taught you a little about apartheid. It was such an amazing book, and I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We're updating and adding books every day, so don't forget to subscribe. See you again soon.